welcome everybody to week 2, day 1. That was a very fancy snowman we got there. Saw some pretty cool results on the Canvas page. I just bought this book during a break in Seaside 26. Pretty cool book. Kind of introduces the whole rendering process, and it's really easy to understand. So I've only gone through a little bit of it, but I'm pretty up on it. So kind of explains things, really easy to follow. So we do this kind of stuff in IS50B. IS50B is more kind of programming oriented. This class is very high level. Today we're going to talk about more game design principles, and we're going to talk about probably materials in Unreal Engine. Okay, so let's get going on that. Your first game design homework assignment is going to be issued today. You are to play a new video game of some sort, and I personally would choose Humankind, which just came out today, but you can choose anything you want on Unreal. In the Epic Game Store, they give out free games every week, so if you don't want to spend money on Humankind, you are more than welcome to just get one of the free games off Epic Game Store, or you can go with a free-to-play, which is often garbage. You can choose a free-to-play game, just something you haven't played before. Okay, and we'll go over that assignment in a little bit. But what you're going to do is you're going to play the game for at least an hour, so you get kind of a feel for it. And Assassin's Creed Odyssey is only $15 now. That's not bad. That one's down to 12. These games, though, are like kind of Space Punks Chivalry right here. Rebel Galaxy. I played that game before, so that one is free right now. So if you want to play a free game, it's enjoyable. It's a fun game. It's basically a space trading game, space shooting game, like the old Privateer, Freelancer, that kind of stuff. It's a little bit old, but Rebel Galaxy came out about a year ago, something like that, and is a pretty decent follow-up to it. So we'll get to that in just a little bit. We're going to talk about the principles of game design, and what you're going to do is you're going to play the game, whatever game you pick. It just has to be a game you haven't played before, because last run I do it, people were like, I'll just play Destiny 2. I've been playing Destiny 2 for the last 900 years. I'll just play it, and I want you to use your critical thinking skills and to kind of analyze a game from a fresh perspective, I guess is one way of putting it. So we talked last time about luck and how luck can mix up a game and kind of make it interesting. It tends to be preferred by weaker players, and stronger players tend to dislike luck. But at the same time, some games have to have luck in it, right? You can't play poker if it's always the same cards dealt. You know what I mean? Like, poker does not work if you get the same cards every time. You will simply remember what the other people had. It would be a very boring game with no luck in it. Backgammon would be a very boring game with no luck in it. If you just pick your dice rolls, it'd be very boring. So, player interaction. I think I've got slides on these things. Luck information. Yeah. Player information. So, some games are perfect information games where you know the entire state of the game. Right? In chess, there's no fog of war. You can see all of the pieces on a chessboard. You can see all the pieces on a checkers board. Connect 4, tic-tac-toe. You can see the entire game state. That is called a perfect information. Both players have full information about what's in the world. Some games have partial information. For example, if you're playing Texas Hold'em, in Texas Hold'em, the full omnipotence, omniscience, not omnipotence. It's omniscience is knowledge, omnipotence is power. So in poker, though, if you're playing Texas Hold'em, it's partial information. You know 2 of the cards, right? Or they kind of progressively reveal more cards, right? And so that's shared information that everybody knows. And then everybody has their private information here in their hand. So you've got your cards and the shared cards. Other people have their cards and the shared cards. And you got to bet based on if you think you're going to win, based on what cards are out there. If somebody flips a 7 and all of a sudden somebody goes all in, you're like, okay, that guy probably had a pair of 7s in his hand. All right. So I know he's got a pair of 7s. And okay, and so you couldn't bluff in poker if everyone's cards were revealed, right? If you had total information in poker, it'd be a very boring game, right? If there was no luck and if there was total information, poker would be a terrible game. Are you guys with me on this? Like, there's not like one right answer for like, is luck good? Is luck bad? Is perfect information good? Is partial information good? There's no one right answer. It depends on the game. These are the elements of game design. There's not like, some magic formula that always works. It depends on the game. For example, if you're playing, Defense of the Ancients or any of the other MOBAs, you can see some of the world, right? You can see your half of the world and sort of the shared area in the middle you can see. But you don't know where the enemies are necessarily if they're off in the fog of war. That's a partial information game, right? And some games you start with almost no information. Like if you play Civ or Humankind, which just came out, you start knowing just a tiny, tiny, tiny little chunk of land and everything else is black. And you have to scout. And you have to balance your scouting with actually building a city and growing it and defending it. So it's like if you put your military out there, scouting around, clearing the fog of war, then you don't have your military at home. And so the information becomes a tactical... some games getting information is the game. Yeah, absolutely. Age of Empires 2, you win Age of Empires 2 by scouting. Assuming that your ability to do economy, get your economy going and building villagers, you don't have idle villagers and you're not idling your town center. Everybody's got one town center at the beginning of the game. And everybody's town center builds villagers at the same rate. I think one of the civs might have an advantage in villager build rate. But, essentially everybody's got the same starting resources with a couple civs getting more or less. Chinese get less, Lithuanians get more, but it's roughly, everyone starts with the same resources, the same production capabilities, and you have to win. And so in Age of Empires 2, it has a rock, paper, scissors view of military. So if you build archers, they can build skirmishers, and skirmishers kill archers. Knights kill skirmishers and archers, but spearmen kill knights. And archers and skirmishers kill spearmen. And man-at-arms kill spearmen and skirmishers. Like, there's this rock, paper, scissors model. And so you win Age of Empires by scouting your enemy. Like, sure, you can build your army, and they can build their army, and you can smash together and hope that you happen to have the rock to their scissors. But if you scout them and you're like, oh, they're massing infantry, then you go heavy into archers, the whatever anti-infantry units you have. So, so you win Age of Empires by scouting, basically, or you just get lucky, I guess. Or if you are just better at playing SimCity than your opponents, there's a lot of, twists and turns in there. If you rush them early before they have a military, you can hamstring their econ. There's a lot of things. But basically, yeah, if you scout and they don't, and if you know what army they have, then you build the counter army to it, and you win. Scissors defeats paper. You win. Simple as that. So, so my point isn't that there's a right answer. There's not like total information is best, or partial information is best, or almost all hidden information is best. No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying it's something you need to deliberately think about when you design a game. Because you will be designing 2 games. You're going to be doing a mod, and you're going to be doing a Unreal Engine project. And so just think about, like, that consciously, right? Do I want this to be something everybody knows about? Would it make the game better? If ever, what sets Texas Hold'em apart from 5-card draw, which used to be the standard form of poker? 5-card draw, you're given 5 cards. You can discard between 0 and 5 cards. Get replacement cards. There's a round of betting between each one. That was standard poker. Then Texas Hold'em came along and said, no, what if we had some shared information? What if we had some information that is shared between the players and it's in everybody's hand? And that people found to be a lot more compelling. Not to say that 5-card draw is a bad game, but Texas Hold'em is a lot more popular nowadays. You know, and it's, I think, because of that shared information. You know, so it's the kind of thing you need to deliberately like think about. Like, all right, you know, would the game be better this way with more information, or is it better with less information? Okay. Are you making the mod or applying mods? You're making a mod. Yeah, you're making a mod. So game balance. Game balance is one of the hardest things to do. Almost impossible, I would say, to make a game. Like, if you were trying to make StarCraft, where it has 3 factions that are all different, how do you balance it? Like, it's basically an impossible task. Because not only do you have, like, you know, unit versus unit comparisons, like maybe the Terran Marine is better than a Zergling, but Zerglings are cheaper, and so maybe you do some sort of analysis like, with this many resources invested, you get 8 Zerglings, or you can get 5 Marines, do they kill each other, you know, that kind of stuff. You can do those kinds of comparisons, but at a higher level, you've got people who will study the game like they should be studying for school. Right? People will spend far more brain power figuring out just the right build order for the Teutonic Knights in Age of Empires when they could be studying, you know, calculus or something like that. Trust me, you know, I was in college when Age of Empires 2 was out. And me and Magic the Gathering. Don't forget about trying to balance PvE and PvP, yeah. Or what I was getting at was trying to balance average players with professional players. Right? Because professional players will get a doctorate, you know, in your game. And they'll be better at it than you are, you know. And so the question is, do you balance your game around pro players, or do you balance it around casual players? You know, and you kind of have to balance it around pro players, otherwise the pro scene, like when Age of Empires 1 came out, everybody played 1 Civ because it was the best. And there was no way of beating that 1 Civ just because its econ bonus was so strong. They got cheaper villagers. So that snowballs. Because the more villagers you have, the more econ you have, the more econ you have, the more villagers you have, and it snowballs. Exponential growth. And if you can increase the that curve of exponential growth, you win, you know. And there was no civilization that could counter it. So you kind of have to balance it for pro players, but the downside is that can make the game very annoying for new players, and then you don't have any players, right? Like, have any of you guys ever seen buffs or nerfs in a video game that was due to something a pro player did? Sorry, I got something in my eye. Have you guys ever played a game and like a balance patch came out, and it was because something that professional players were doing? Like what? Give me an example on Discord. I'll give you one. Orcs Must Die 3 just released a balance patch because people had found that tar and lasers together was too powerful. And so they nerfed it into oblivion, so now it's completely useless. They nerfed tar and they nerfed lasers. And so whereas before you could shut down an entire army, now you can have like literally 4 of these traps in a row, march the entire enemy through it single file, and they all survive. Like it does no damage now. Overreaction. Okay. StarCraft 2. Give me an example from StarCraft 2 where they made a balance patch due to professional players. Monster Hunter World sticky ammo nerf. Yeah, League of Legends constantly, right, changes the balance. They say this is too strong, that's too strong. This ability goes up 5 points in price. This one comes down. Heroes of the Storm was constantly revamping things like a little bit, and then they go and do a full revamp of a character every so often. So every month, one of the characters would get completely redone based on the data they collected. Okay, nobody's ever taken this ability. We need to either eliminate it or move it earlier in the level progression, or make it more powerful, or whatever. Patch for the Afterburners or medevac drops for Widow Mine drop. Shaking up the community meta. Sometimes, yeah. Sometimes they'll just do it to shake up the meta. Right? Overwatch. Overwatch, they would change things just because they thought the meta was boring. Everybody has to play this composition. And anytime you hear somebody say, okay, you have to play this composition to win, then game developers get kind of huffy and you're like, no, that's not good. Because again, a game is a series of interesting decisions, right? And if you have to play dive comp or what, 2 tank, 2, whatever compositions, then it's boring, right? That's not good game balance. Yeah. So my principle for game balance is that nothing should be so strong you always have to take it, and nothing should be so weak no one would take it. That's my principle for game balance. I don't expect everything to be equal. I don't expect everything to be equal. A sniper rifle has a longer range than a shotgun, right? So, okay, maybe the shotgun does more damage close up. Sniper rifle does more at a long distance. I'm fine with that. Like, you don't have to exactly balance it, based on, somebody's charging you from 100 yards away, how much damage you do over... No, you don't have to go into any great lengths for that. Just, the sniper rifle's better at long range, shotgun's better at short range, you're good. Like, that's all you have to do. Just give somebody a reason to take something. And if I'm doing close quarters combat, take the shotgun. Doing long range combat, take the sniper rifle. Done. Just make sure it's not super crazy or something. Apex Mozambique so bad, don't take it. Yeah. Hearthstone Warsong Commander nerf. Yeah. They bury ones that are popular. Yeah, and the nerfs are the worst, right? Because like people get used to like some combo that's like really good, and then when they nerf it, it's just like it's like when you're a kid and somebody just snatches a toy out of your hand. You're like, dude, not cool. Like the tar laser trap. Like that was my build, and I was just like, I am lost now. I don't know what to do, and there's really no equivalent trap that does the same thing and works Must Die too. The lasers don't run out. Like almost every trap in the game has a cooldown, like the attack, and then they cool down for a bit, and then they attack and they cool down for a bit, or they run out like as enemies across them, they run out of charges and they turn off. The lasers were just always on, and so they provided a nice, consistent source of damage. And they essentially deleted it from the game. Like they're so bad now, like nobody would in the right mind would ever take it. Like they're designed to kill runners, like really fast creatures that run through your traps. Like you just set up some lasers and it would kill them. Now they're so weak, not even the tiny little weak runners get killed by them. They just run right through. Like it's so bad, like not even the one thing that they were supposed to be good at, they're good at. That's how bad they are now. And I was just like, dude, not cool. And had to spam games to climb why my main in the league was good. Here's the Storm. They completely revamped Butcher. Butcher originally was pretty darn good, and then they just super nerfed him. Basically it would get stronger every time you killed somebody, and so if you could kill people, you'd kill more people, and then you'd kill more people. You can kill more people. You kill more people. And you get to the point where you could like two-shot people, and they have a charge attacks, they charge in, stun them, and eviscerate them. And it got to the point where like you were just literally unstoppable. And it was a carry. And that's the whole concept of a carry build in a MOBA, is that if you give them long enough to get strong, then they're going to carry the team to victory. And they're like, nah, that's too good. And they got rid of the whole thing. Snowballing characters are dangerous, but you actually it's not killing a NPC. You have to kill a player, right? And it's hard to kill players if they're cautious, right? Like so as Butcher, you had to be very careful to like kind of hide and be like, oh look, that guy's kind of getting weak. Oh, he's not running away. Okay, charge in, stun him, and kill him. Take the kill, And so you had to be very tactical about it, because if you died, you would lose your level up, And so you had to get a lot more kills than deaths, and so you had to play very cautiously and things like that. Do you want to close the door, Mace? Thank you.
什么时候出来吃饭?
I will. And it was an interesting thing. In a competitive scene, I don't even think people played. Maybe they did. I don't know. But it was just really fun because you would, if you started snowballing, like, man, you just like, and just people would explode and they would just run away from you, you know. So yeah, and so they just changed it, and it's just kind of pointless. And yeah, it's just a bad feeling to nerf things. And so, you know, in general, if you want to make changes, balance changes to a game, it's usually better to improve the bad things than to lower the good things, unless it's actually busted. Like if like there's just like an infinite combo that does infinite damage or something like that. Yeah, sure, you gotta fix it, you know. But yeah, things like Butcher and Here's the Storm, it wasn't that bad, honestly. You had to get like a bunch of kills before it really took off. Okay, so yeah, again, all decisions should be interesting and cause people to think. Yeah, it's like if you play Rebel Galaxy and there's different, I don't know, weapons available, is there one that just you should always take, or, you know, does it do a good job? Like, I don't know, and you sit there and chew your fingernails and I don't know. They go with lasers or missiles, I don't know. That's a good sign that the game's balanced. Okay. So a perfectly balanced game, by the way, is very boring. Right, like if StarCraft 3 was just the same monsters reskinned 3 different times, right? So like you have a Colonial Marine on the Terran side, and you've got a Zerg Marine on the Zerg side, and you've got a Protoss Marine on the Protoss side, and they're literally the same unit just with different colors. That's very boring game design. Do you guys understand? Like, sure, it's balanced. Warcraft 2 was that way. In Warcraft 2, every unit in the game, or Warcraft 1, sorry, every unit in the game in Warcraft 1 was the same except for the wizard units. And that was kind of a late game thing anyway. They had like one spell that was different. Like the humans would summon water elementals, the orcs would summon demons. But I think they had like one spell that was different. That was it. The entire rest, the humans and the orcs were completely the same. Just had different graphics, and it was very boring. So, in Warcraft 2, they added more differences. The ogre mages had like a berserk spell, whereas the humans had paladins that could heal and things like that. So they had a little more differentiation. Warcraft 3, obviously much more different with hero units. They were very different for every side. And the hero units in Warcraft 3, of course, spawned Dota, Defense of the Ancients, where they just had hero combat, you know, with Warcraft 3 units spawning and attacking each other. But the hero units, and they made like 50, 60, 100, 200 different heroes in Defense of the Ancients. There are all sorts of different mods and mods and the mods. And it was really on the different heroes you take, things like that. So, but they're all different, right? And so if everybody played the same hero, it would be a very boring game. So, it's really hard to do this. And a lot of times you think your game is balanced, and then it goes out into the wild, and people discover something that you didn't think about, and you're just like, ah, damn it. You know, you got to fix it. You know, like, in my mod, if you set a det pack while you're feigning death, which I never thought to try, like, you know, if you pretend to be dead and then you set a det pack, it works, which for one thing is like kind of busted, because you can just go into a courtyard with a bunch of enemies, play dead, and then set off a det pack that kills everybody in the room, yourself included. But there was a bug. There's a bug they found, and the bug was I was keeping track of if you could move or not with a Boolean. And so when you feigned death, it would stop you from moving. And when you start setting a det pack, it stops you from moving. And when you finish setting a det pack, it allows you to move again. So if you feign death and then set a det pack, when the det pack was finished, it would turn the flag back on, and you can move while playing dead. And so you would be dead, sliding around on the floor like a corpse, and people would have a really hard time shooting you because you're this corpse sliding around on the ground, and they're not even walking. The dead are like just like sliding on their bellies like around the world, capturing the flag left and right, you know, and it was very hard to hit people because they're like this big. So yeah, it's not the Walking Dead, it's the Sliding Dead. The next TV show from AMC, the Sliding Dead. So for things like that, you got to fix them. But in general, like, you just have to let people play your game a lot. So if you guys are going to be working in the industry, it's really important to playtest. Get casual players playtesting it. See if they can figure out your game. Get experienced players playtesting it. See if the game's broken. Age of Empires, 4 is in beta testing right now, I hear. And so they're undoubtedly gathering feedback from the beta testers, trying to figure out which units are the most powerful, which ones are worthless, that kind of stuff. Zombies clipping into walls, game is working normally. So, StarCraft 2 was playtested extensively. They got pro players and they really worked on the game balance for it. Overwatch, again, is pretty well balanced game. Even still, as time goes on, they will adjust it. I played Symmetra, and one of the Symmetra is like a defensive character, right? You build these like little sentry gun kinds of things. You do the Symmetra car wash. So yeah, basically people walk in and then your turrets shoot them as they die, right? So that leash you see there, they got rid of that because they're like, it's too strong. The fact that it kind of auto targets. Here, let me pull that back up over here. The fact that it auto targets, I guess they thought was too strong. You see how you just have to have it sort of in the general direction of an enemy, and then it will sort of lock on and keep hitting it. And the longer you're locked onto them, it does ×2 damage and it does ×3 damage. The trouble is there's a max ammo, so you run out of ammo and you have to reload. That kills your multiplier. But basically, they thought that was too strong. Because even though she's a defensive player and has no health, the fact that she could kill people one-on-one, which I did routinely, like Roadhog, which is this character that has like a bajillion health and has a shotgun that can one-shot Symmetra, I could routinely kill Roadhog 2/3 of the time. Third of the time, he'd catch me with a shotgun blast. 2/3 of the time, I could 1v1 Roadhog without turrets or anything, just running around him. You just keep running behind him with your leash, and the leash stays on long enough, it starts doing this huge multiplier. Roadhog will then sit down and try healing himself. Doesn't matter, the multiplier is going, and it just drains his health and he dies. So, camping 101, yeah. And so they got rid of it. Which to me is kind of like, I don't know. Like if somebody can one-on-one somebody with like having no health, like, I don't know, like seems fine to me. Like, sure, you can kill a tank as a defensive character. Is that so bad? I don't know. The tank can kill me in one shot. I don't know. Like, so, watching a talk on GDC, they were talking about testing. They said users in the first 10 minutes of the game do more testing than they could in years of testing. Yeah, it's true. It's true. You have to test, and you have to balance, and you have to really think about it. But then when the game goes out, you just pay attention to what people are doing and watch the forums, And even though you watch the forums, you have to like not believe everything people say on forums, because people will have ideas for balancing things that are stupid. And so it's really tricky to like balance listening to your players and like also not listening to them, because they will have some dumb ideas. Like if their favorite weapon is like Symmetra's leash, they'll be like, remove the ammo requirement for Symmetra's leash, because it sucks when I have to reload and I lose that sweet damage multiplier, you know. But they don't think about it from the other side, you know. Like whenever you talk about balance, you have to think about balancing something both from the perspective of using the weapon and from being hit by the weapon. And one of my favorite stories about this is when somebody modded my mod. Then I went back and modded it, and then somebody else modded that mod, and I don't know, it's a long history. Anyway, so this guy releases a new version of the Tranquilizer Dart. The Tranquilizer Dart in my game slows you down, and that's pretty bad actually. If you're slow in a first-person shooter, you're probably gonna die. Like you need speed to not take rockets to the face. So he made it so you just flop down dead, comatose. Right, you're not dead. You just can't move for a minute. And so I was playing the game, and I was defending the flag. The guy shoots in, tranquilizes me, I flop to the ground. He runs past me, grabs the flag, runs right out. And I am unconscious for a minute. And I don't know if you guys know this, but a minute is a really long time in a video game. It's a really long time in the video game. He was able to go home, capture the flag, come back, get the flag again, and run it past me while I was still sitting there unconscious. So each character should be able to kill each character, in my opinion. Yeah, it's like if Symmetra could somehow take out Reinhardt, like I don't know, I don't see a problem with that. You know, like Reinhardt's got a lot of health. He's got a melee weapon. Her weapon's really short range. If she could somehow pull off a kill of Reinhardt with his charge attack and his shield and his big hammer thing, more power to her. That doesn't mean Symmetra needs a nerf. I'm sorry, Blizzard. I'm sorry. So he is just bad. I don't know. Like he's a team character, right? Like his goal is to provide defense for a team. So, but so anyhow, so what I did, because I'm texting him while I'm unconscious. I'm like, hey, like this new weapon is overpowered. Like he's like, but I really like it. I think it's, you know, I think having crowd control is really tactical, and you can crowd control the defense and take the flag and run out. I was like, all right, cool. So I then take the Tranquilizer Dart and I shoot him, and he flops down unconscious. And I sit there for a minute, and then I shoot him again. And after another minute goes by, I shoot him again. And he just lays there on the ramp for 3 minutes. After which he just types, yeah, okay, I'm going to fix this. Like, a minute's a really long time. It's a really long time for a video game. And his code was set so that if you take damage, you wake up again. Right? But if the enemy team just ignores you, you're just sitting there. You just watch it. You're a spectator. These things are happening, you know? And I just crowd controlled him for 3 minutes straight. And he's like, yeah, this isn't fun. It was fun to be on the shooting side. It was not fun to be on the receiving side. And that's the biggest thing that your players are going to have trouble with, is that whenever they propose balance changes, it's always from the perspective of playing as that character or playing with that weapon or playing on this map or whatever. They want it to be cool and awesome, and you have to think, is it cool and awesome to be tranquilized for a minute? No, it's not. It's not cool and awesome at all. So, yeah, everything should be an interesting decision. We can talk more about the math some other time. There's a lot of different game mechanics that go into video games. I guess we'll talk about those next time. I do want to get into Unreal Engine. We did start half an hour late today, but so we are going to go to 3:30 if that's okay with everyone. If not, you just watch the video online. I do want to get into Epic Games and then Unreal Engine, and then launch our game, and we will talk today about materials. But we'll pick this up on Thursday. What I want you to do is just play a game. I want you to play a new game that you've never played before. And where is my Google? Well, I'll post the link. Basically, you're going to play the game, and you're going to go through and say, like, how fun was it? Is it competitive or cooperative? How much luck is involved? So you're gonna start this process of training your brain to look at games from the perspective of a game designer. Like, is it public or private information? Is it, you know, how hidden is the information in the game? And all these elements of game design, it's not like there's one right answer, but you have to start thinking about games in those terms, so that when you make your own game, you don't just like go with the seat of your pants and just hope that it works. Because, spoiler alert, most games are bad. Right? We all see the games that make it. Valheim, which, you know, by all rights, like, nobody should have heard of. It's just this indie studio, Iron Gate Studios, that had made, like, Deep Rock Galactic or whatever. By all means, like, Valheim wasn't even a finished game when it exploded around the world. And they still haven't even patched it, really. They've come out with some really, really minor patches. But they still haven't even released any new content for it, you know? That's the exception to the story. And the reason why it worked was because they had a pretty good instinct or pretty good design for their game. But a lot of people just make games on instinct, and they're just not fun. Right? And so learning to think about games intellectually, right, analytically, is it's a really important skill if you're gonna be in the industry. And even if you're not, games are just fun to talk about, you know. Okay, so let's hop in to our world. Did you guys make a first-person template or a third-person? We made third-person this semester, right? Mm-hmm. Hades is really good, yeah. Hades is really a masterpiece of game design. My issue with it, it's a little bit repetitive. There's this kind of progression. It's a roguelike, right? So you die and you die and you die, but there's sort of an ongoing progression. Your character collects these dark crystals, and they power up your character for the next run. So you go further and further through the game. Eventually, you get to Hades, and he kicks your ass, and you do that a couple times. And each run's like an hour, so it's kind of frustrating. But then you get strong enough, and you learn Hades' powers, attack pattern enough. You're like, all right, cool, I got it, and you win, and it feels really good. But then the game's not actually over at that point. You have to beat the game like 13 times or 15 times, something like that. And my issue with Hades is that in order to keep getting progression, you have to keep amping the difficulty up. But you actually run out of things you can put into your character by like run 8 or 9 or 10 or something like that. You've literally bought everything. And so at that point, all the dark crystals are good for is like buying at extremely inefficient trade rate to get Titan Blood, which upgrades your weapons very, very slowly. And you have a bunch of weapons to upgrade. And so it's just like, it sort of turns into like this really tedious grind past run 8 or so. And it doesn't feel good at that point. I never actually got to beating it 13 times. That said, if you're interested at all in games, you should play it. Okay, so we've got here our third-person template, and we've got some blocks. Okay, so last time we talked about how to put things in the world. Put a sphere in the world and turn it into a snowman. If you hit delete, deletes it. Here's my jaunty snowman cap there. Okay. 3 acetos open. Nah, I'm good. Okay, so we have gone over all the different things over here. The world outliner. Let me hide my face. Webcam off. Off. So up here in the top right corner, there's something called the world outliner. And if you double click on something there, it'll zoom you over to that thing. And I don't really like naming things cube, mesh, or cone. You know, it's not very descriptive. So if you want, you can give these things a description like Frosty's nose or something like that. Cylinder is not very descriptive, so if you double click on it, it'll take you to it. You can also make folders, and the folders will allow you to organize your world a little bit more interesting. You can collapse them down like that, collapse the arena geometry like that. Here are the different light sources, things like that. We haven't talked about lighting yet, have we? What's it, 2:40? We got 45 minutes. Okay. So, remind me to do lighting another time. Today we're going to do materials. So, there are some materials that come with the starter content. Basic floor is just kind of like a gray texture. There's various bricks and grasses and dirt and wood. And if you want to add a material to something, you just drag it onto the surface, and there it is. Okay. So we are going to learn how to make a new material today. So let's make a new material for, I don't know, frosting, I guess we could do that. For the hat, maybe? Yeah, let's make a new material for the hat. How does that sound? Or would you like to make a material for something else? So folder is how you could save and duplicate a complete snowman. No. This is not a good way to organize your thing, Hazleton. What you really want to do is not do this at all. But yeah, you could put these into a folder if you wanted, but you can group them together, and so now all of them will come together. But really, you don't want to do that at all. It's not a folder. Frosty. Click. I'll be going to there. Yeah. It's not a great design thing. Really, what you want to do is use a blueprint. Yeah, like Bell said, and you can actually attach things together so they're all considered one model. We'll learn about blueprints some other day, or you go into Blender, which is the more common way of doing it. Blender, Maya, 3ds Max. There's different modeling programs that you can use to create 3D models. That is the official way of doing it. The reason why I had you guys do this is just because it's to teach you how you can drag things out and add materials to them and stuff like that. I wouldn't do it this way for reals. Maybe for like walls and things like that. You know, so if you go into architecture, you can see there's different walls here, and you can put out walls and build a little cabin or something like that. Okay, so we're gonna make a material. What do you guys want to make a material for? Do you want to make it for Frosty's hat, Frosty's body, Frosty's nose? What do you feel like? Like the nose, I guess, could be like right now it's gold. Doesn't look much like a carrot. The hat's okay, I think, actually. What do you guys feel like? The nose? Yeah, I kind of want to do the nose too. All right. So Frost, I'm gonna have to ungroup it. And so the nose is right now gold. So let's make it a carrot nose. Okay. Well, it's still gonna be a cone, but we'll just make it orange, right? Okay. So I'm gonna go into the build directory, and oh, you might also notice that my guy is a knight now, and kind of walks around and stuff like that. Don't worry about that. That's IS50B stuff. So in the build directory, we are going to make a new material. So I'm going to right click and choose new material right there. You guys all see that? Right click in the content browser, choose new material. And so this is art. Okay. So a lot of game development is art. And personally, I'm a programmer. I don't feel like I have much skill at art. But you kind of got to develop at least some basic proficiency in it, because everybody's going to be building something at some point. You know what I mean? Even if you're like writing a program to, I don't know, simulate stars flying past the spaceship you're in or something like that, you've got to choose how many stars are there, what direction are they moving in, how fast are they moving in, what colors are they, you know? So every person sort of needs to develop at least a basic aesthetic sense, you know? Or it's just going to look terrible. Okay, so we're going to make a new material. It's art. Cool. All right, so we're going to call this nose mat. Nose mat. Okay? You can call it whatever you want. It doesn't really matter. Okay? And then double click on it to go into it. And you're going to see something that looks a little bit like this. And hopefully you see something that looks like this. If not, I don't know, something went wrong. So these are the outputs of the material. So the most important thing is the color. That's what we're going to do first. And so whatever color we feed into this pin here is the color that material will have Frosty's nose up here when we assign the material to the nose, which currently is not assigned because we haven't built it yet. Okay. So how does this thing work? This is the first time you've seen the node editor. And so it's important to kind of talk about how these nodes work in Unreal Engine. Is that these things are like little holes and you attach wires to them. And so you're going to wire up one node to like another node and they're going to connect to each other. And it doesn't exactly matter where you put them. Like I can put this thing down here and hook it up over here and I can move it around and it really doesn't matter. All that matters is that I'm feeding black into the base color. And if I change this to be like, I'll explain how to do this in a second. If I change this to be like orange or something like that, then you can see in the preview over here, now it's like this yellow color. Okay. Doesn't matter where I put it, the thing is still hooked up. So you hook up one pin to another pin by just clicking and dragging on the pin, like that. If you click and drag on it, it'll attach when it turns into a green checkbox. If it's not a checkbox, it's not attached, right? And so make sure you line it up and connect to the right pin. Okay. If you want to disconnect something, you can control click on it to break it, or you can right click and choose break all links. Okay. So how do we add a color? So we're going to add a constant 3 vector. If you see on the right hand side here, there's a palette of all the different things you can put into a material. And I'd like for you to drag out the constant 3 vector to the blueprint area over here and drop it off. If you see on the right hand side here, there are shortcuts for these things. And so if you want to make a constant 3 vector, you hold down 3 and click. Hold down 3 and click. Caps lock on. What's going on here? There we go. What the hell is going on? Made 3 all of a sudden. Okay. Yeah, so you can hold down 3 and click, and it'll make a constant 3 vector, or you can just drag one out from here. Okay. So drag out a constant 3 vector. Why is it a constant 3 vector? Well, because colors are red, green, blue. Those are the 3 primary colors. And the reason why red, green, and blue are the 3 primary colors is because you can make all the other colors from them. Arguably. Color theory is a bit weird. And also our eyes have red, green, and blue receptors in them. Our blue receptors are a little less sensitive than the red and green ones. So, drag out that constant 3 vector, and then just double click on where it's black right here. And you'll get a color picker. Okay. So pick a color you like. Make sure you turn the intensity up. For whatever reason, the intensity is 0 by default. So you have to turn the thing all the way up to 1, or you can click on the V down here. And turn the intensity all the way up. And then just find a hue that you like. I'm trying to go with carrot colored. A little more red. Yeah, it looks pretty good. See, this doesn't look like that color at all. I don't know what's going on here. Okay. So, yeah, that's pretty decent, I think. So once you do that, so click on the color wheel to find a color that you like, and then make sure you turn that value all the way up to 1, or if you don't want it all the way up to 1, if you drag it down, it'll turn brown at some point, because brown is just dark orange. But I want carrot colored, so, or you can just type in the values yourself, 1.250. That works as well. So we get orange. So step 1, drag out a constant 3 vector. Step 2, double click on the black to turn it orange. Step 3, hook it up to the base color like that, and you will see that the output preview is orange. So good enough for now. Save. And I'm gonna actually watch what I do here really carefully. It's really annoying because these preview windows here, like if you click on the world behind it, like they don't come up, and so you have to like constantly be like you have to like minimize, and then when you want to work on it again, you like unminimize, and watch this instead. So if you click and drag on that tab there, you can actually attach it up here. And then you can just flip back and forth like that, which is a lot easier than constantly minimizing and unminimizing the window. At least I found. Okay, so we are going to attach the orange material to the cone. We could either drag it on like we did before, or while we have the cone selected and while we have the nose material selected, we can actually just click on the little left arrow there, and it will apply the orange material. So when you have the cone selected and the orange selected, if you click on the little arrow there, bloop, it applies the orange to the cone. Or you can browse in the window here and search for nose matte and do it that way. That's another way you can do it. Or you could just drag out the material onto the cone. It's 3 different ways of doing something. So in Unreal Engine, you will very, very commonly have multiple ways of doing the same thing. And one of the things that's always interesting for me when I watch a video, I was watching a video by the Quixel people, the people that make mega scans, last night, was just how different their workflow was than mine. I was just like, oh, yeah, maybe I'm doing it wrong. I don't know. like the way they were painting terrains was like different from the way that I do it. So I don't know. So let me know if you guys understand this. So what we did was we right-clicked, made a new material, opened up the material, dragged out a constant 3 vector, double-clicked on the black box here, set it to orange, making sure to increase the value all the way up, otherwise you're just going to get black every time. Connecting the orange, or whatever color you picked, to the base color, and hitting save. Okay, then coming back out to the map, and putting the nose material on Frosty's nose. You got it? Pretty easy? Okay. So, base color is the most obvious and most important output. It's the color that's going to be drawn on the surface. Okay? There are, however, other options, and there's things like metallic and specular and roughness, and emissive color, and we'll kind of go through what these things mean. So metallic is usually either 0 or 1. 0 means that it is plasticky looking. 1 means it is metallic looking. Okay, so if we drag out a 1 constant, because metallic is just one number, it's not 3, it's not RGB, it's just 1. We can drag that into there. And then over here you can see that while this is selected, the metallic value is 0. So if we hit save, come over here, nothing changed, because it's not metallic by default. But if we want to see what it would look like if it was metallic, change that value up to 1. 0 means plastic, 1 means metallic. You can see the preview node now looks like it's made out of metal. Hit save. And when you click over here, you'll see that Frosty now has a metal orange nose. So not very realistic looking for a carrot, but you know, kind of cool looking nonetheless. I noticed some of you had metal snowmen, which is kind of cool. So I'm going to turn that back to 0 because I am trying to make something carroty. Technically, you don't have to do that at all because it's not metallic by default, but yeah, why not? Won't hurt anything. So specular also ranges from 0 to 1, and specular is how shiny something is. So if you look at the reflection of the sun on the preview ball over here, you'll see there's like that specular highlight. That's what it's called. It's called a specular highlight. If you ever seen like a pool ball, pool balls are very shiny. And so do you think they have a large specular highlight or a small specular highlight? If you had to guess. So do you think this area here is going to get smaller if it gets shinier, or is it going to get bigger if it gets shinier? What do you guys think? So it will get shinier when you make it shinier, but is the reflection of the sun going to increase in size or decrease in size? So what happens is the sunlight's coming in like this. It hits the surface of the ball or the nose or whatever in this case. And that green ray there is called a specular reflection. Okay. So it's like when something bounces off like a mirror, right? Mirrors are very shiny, right? Like they reflect things perfectly back off at you, right? So the green ray there is called a specular reflection. Now there's another kind of reflection called a diffuse reflection. That's like if you shine light at a wall, like that has normal paint on it, not shiny paint, just regular paint. What happens is the light comes in and it bounces in different directions. That's called a diffuse reflection. This is a specular reflection. And then if the thing's translucent, then you'll also get a refraction through it as well. When light goes through a glass surface, it will bend as it moves through a glass of water, as I'm sure you've all seen. Yeah, like over here, you can see these things reflecting off like that. Okay, so let's try it. So let's attach a constant vector to specular. And you notice that I just dragged it right onto it. It clicks. I'll do that again. If you drag the thing directly onto the pin, it'll click it like that. Another way you can do it, because there's always multiple ways of doing things, actually not quite exactly the same thing. You can right click on a pin and choose promote to parameter. You see it looks a little different, huh? That's because a parameter is different from a constant. But for what we're doing right now, it's effectively the same thing. So we've got this parameter here now called specular. And if we change the value from 0 to 1, you will see that it becomes shiny. And if we turn the value down to 0.5, 0.1, see how that specular highlight gets weaker and weaker? The less specular it is. 0.9, 0.01, it's almost gone. Okay. 0.5 is the default. So you can change the shininess of a thing. And this whole thing, by the way, is something called PBR. So PBR is Pabst Blue Ribbon, which some of you might know PBR as, or the Professional Bull Riding Association. If any of you have been to the Clovis Rodeo, PBR is the name of the Professional Bull Riding Association. Is it percentage based? Yes, it ranges from 0 to 1. Pretty much all these things do. Not all of them, but pretty much. Base color, red, full red is 1, no red is 0, right? If I set the red down to 0, it just turns into green. PBR stands for physically based rendering. So physically based rendering means you provide it sort of the physical parameters of the substance, and then the game engine itself will render it in a realistic fashion. It's kind of cool. So you just say, is something metallic, yes or no? You don't have to get into the equations of like how much light reflects off and how a metallic versus a plastic versus a quasi-metallic surface. You don't have to do any of that. All you do as the material designer is you just say, is it metallic, yes or no? And then the game engine will figure out how to render it realistically, which is kind of cool. So, how shiny is a carrot? What do you guys think? Saying no to a shiny carrot. A few days after we passed the test of the meth dealer house. What the hell? I don't even know what's happening there. How shiny is a carrot? That's actually a good question. Oh, it's pretty shiny. I don't know. Pretty shiny. Pretty shiny. Okay. So we'll up the specular to like 0.8 or something like that. It's pretty shiny. Okay. All right. So then there is roughness, and so roughness controls the diffuse reflections. So remember how I talked about some reflections are specular and some are diffuse. Diffuse means it kind of bounces it in different directions, right? So this is a specular reflection. It reflects like a mirror. A diffuse reflection, light comes in and it goes kind of in different directions. Okay, and so the rougher a surface is, the more diffuse the surface is. Okay, so if you were to make a perfectly specular surface, it'd be a mirror. And if you had a perfectly diffuse surface, then it would be like like when you shine light on a really rough paint, and you just get no direct reflections back at all. So it just kind of scatters light in different directions. And so that's the roughness parameter here. So we'll promote that to a parameter also, just because then I don't have to type in the name. Yay. And so the minimum value is 0, the maximum value is 1. I'll just make metallic a parameter too. Why not? That way just everything is named, and metallic also ranges from 0 to 1 as well. Okay, so for roughness of 0, look at what happened to our thing here. Right? So if we have a good specular reflection and no roughness, that means there's no diffuse reflections at all. Everything just bounces right back. Okay? I've never heard of a carrot being shiny. Those are showroom floor carrots. Fair enough. Fair enough. I've never... I don't know. Like, I think DuckDuckGo might have been a little bit... shiny carrot. I don't know if... Let's just search for a carrot. It's not shiny carrots. Search for a regular carrot. I don't know. I mean, kind of. I don't know. Like, they got a little bit of a specular reflection there. I don't know. If they're wet, they might reflect a little. I mean, if they're polished, they're shinier, definitely. Interesting. Okay. So anyway, so we don't want a roughness of 0. Roughness of 0 is perfectly smooth. It's like a pool ball, right? Pool balls would have a roughness of 0, right? Torres wants a 0.2 specularity. Okay. Okay, so that got rid of the specular highlight there. And then the roughness of the thing, let's try 0.8, maybe. Nah, it's too rough. 0.4. Yeah, maybe. I think this carrot needs to be a little bit more... Yeah, it's more of a carrot color. Okay. Alright. So, I don't know if you need to worry about that. Emissive color, we also don't need to worry about that. Emissive color means it radiates light. So, if you have like a headlight on a car, you can make the surface emissive, meaning the light is produced by it. So if you see it in like, yeah, over here. So if you have some surfaces that are like emissive, then they glow. And they will actually glow in the fog, and they'll create reflections, they glow, and stuff like that. Emissive light surface. UE4 fog. Yeah, right over here. So if you really, oh, okay, you can really see it here. You can see these are like emissive surfaces, and so they sort of glow in the fog. They emit light. Yeah. Our carrot is not going to be glowing, so we're good. And then normal. Probably want to do something with that, but we need to explain what a normal is first. But for now, let's just go ahead and save it, and then when we go back to the map here, you can see we've got no radioactive carrots. Yeah, you can see it's starting to look a little more carroty. We do kind of need to add like a texture to it, though, right? Like we need to add like the carrot wrinkles. You know what I mean? Like the and by the way, this is how the art process goes. Like an artist is like, how do are they horizontal cut looking things? Or are they wrinkles? Like how do they, okay, yeah, they're horizontal wrinkles like that. Okay, they don't go vertically, they go horizontally. Okay, all right. And so artists will sit there and just Google, okay, that's how it looks like. All right, cool. And so now we need to find a texture that we can add to it that will add those wrinkles and stuff like that. See if we can find something really fast. Something that looks like wrinkles. What do you think? Does that kind of look like what we're going with? We get one with a Shutterstock logo on it, so our carrot nose will say Shutterstock. That'd be amazing. None of these exactly look I'm going for. What do you think about this one? Yeah. Wrinkle. If that went all the way across, it'd be pretty good. What do you think? Yeah, and this is also is a big part of the art process. You're just trying to find like things that look like the wrinkle pattern on a carrot. You're just like, no, maybe. Maybe, I don't know. No, these look quite right. By the way, there's asset packs you can buy that will do all this for you, so you don't have to stare at DuckDuckGo for hours. How about just a free carrot texture? Well, okay, there you go. All right. That'll do, pig. That'll do. All right, so we'll just save this. I don't know if it's Creative Commons or not. Let's see, settings. Creative Commons. Great. All my beautiful carrot textures away. Well, I'll just show you what it looks like. Okay. So if you want to import that carrot texture, what you do is you go to your desktop and just drag it into Unreal Engine. And then you can snap it like that. Then you can actually drag it into the material, and it'll create what's called a texture sample. And the texture sample is like a color, except it's 2D instead of just 3 numbers. And so if you drag in a texture sample for a carrot or whatever, then you will see that it appears in the world map. Looks a little bit better that way. Okay. So that said, I'm not going to use it. Let's see if there's some other. Okay, anyway. So, it's the kind of thing you can spend a long time doing. I am just going to... I know I've got some noise collections on here. I can't find them. Either way. So I'll just kind of hack something together. So where were we? We had base color. So we'll just promote this to a parameter also. Call it base color, and we're gonna go back to having 100% red, 0.2 green, and call that orange. Now, now we can talk about what normal means. So a normal has two very different meanings in the world of 3D and video games and game development and stuff like that. So yeah, at some point I'll find, I've got a library of like all these different noise textures that I can use to add character to surfaces. I don't know where it is exactly. I've got so many different game development assets on my computer. It's hard to find sometimes. So what normal means, it means two different things. One, when you normalize something, that means it has a length of 1. Okay? So if you're playing a game and you want to get the direction somebody's moving, you take their velocity, which is magnitude and direction, and you normalize it, that just gives you direction. That's not what that means here. We're not normalizing something down to 1. What normal means here, normal is the vector pointing out of the surface. So for example, if you have my Cup of Joy lid here, the surface is like that, and the straw is the normal. So it is perpendicular to a surface. So no matter where I rotate my Cup of Joy, the straw is always normal to it. Okay, it's always 90 degrees to the plane that it's on. That's what normal means in this context. It's a vector pointing out from the surface. Here's my palm. Here's a vector pointing out from it. It doesn't matter which way I'm rotating. My thumb is always normal to it. Okay. So why the hell would you want to change that? Well, as it turns out, there's some really, really cool tricks you can do if you play with the normal of a surface. If, for example, you add a little bit to the normal in the X direction here and a little bit here in the other direction, what the normal map is used for is how light reflects off of it, right? So when you have a mirror, it's perfectly flat, but if you add some noise to the normal, then it will look like the mirror is distorted. So you can have areas that appear higher and areas that appear lower. You can add cracks, like if you're making like a vinyl couch or something like that. You can, if just by messing, you don't have to add triangles or detail or anything. Just by making the way the light reflects off of it a little bit different, you can actually add cracks and detail to things that is really, really cool. Is this how you organize textures? I need to organize my textures more. This is how you make textures. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a texture sample here. So I'm going to search for texture sample. And I'm going to pull in some noise. And over here, we can search for noise. And like I said, I've got noise libraries. But I'm just going to search for Perlin noise, which is a nice repeating noise texture. And I'm going to hook this up to the normal map here. Okay. And let's see how that looks out here. So if you look at it, So there's like now a little bit of character on the surface. Right, little splotches, little divots. That's from adding that noise to it. Or if you want to add, delete that. Or you can use any normal map, like the gold normal map. Remember how the gold appeared to be kind of pitted and things like that? If we hook that up, then that will add the same pitted look to the nose over here. Do you see that? So the geometry has not changed. If we look at it in wireframe mode, the nose here, it's still the same. Remember, any 3D surface can be approximated with triangles, but it looks like it's got more detail on it now. It looks like we're using more triangles. Remember, every graphics card has a limit to how many triangles per second it can process. And you don't want to make triangles when you don't have to. It slows down your frame rate, and frame rate is the most important thing in a video game, right? It doesn't matter how awesome your video game is. It doesn't matter. The Witcher 3 could be the best video game ever. If it ran at 1 frame a second, nobody would play it. So you have to do tricks like this. So I didn't add any more geometry, but now it looks like I've got all these like little bits of detail here and all these things that you'd have to craft using triangles to approximate all the little bumps and divots on it. We started half an hour late today, Avina, because I had a meeting. So we're going to go half an hour late. So by just adding a normal map to something, look at that. You can add all sorts of detail that you'd otherwise have to use millions and millions of triangles to do. And it's just a very cheap thing you can do. It's just a little 2D picture, and the 2D picture tells you which direction the surface is at that point. And that's it. So there's all sorts of normal maps. They all end in _n, and you can just pick any of them and just add a little bit of texture to it. I wonder what that would do. That seems pretty wild. Not exactly what I was going for, but kind of cool looking. Put it back onto the gold texture. Okay, so yeah, and ambient occlusion is used for self-shadowing. So if any of you guys have heard of like HBAO or SSAO or that kind of thing, if you put that on, it'll be used for self-shadowing the nose. So depends if you like the look or not. You see how like the crevices inside of there now are picking up shadows from themselves. If I undo that, then save it, watch the shadow on the inside. So you can turn that on or off. That's about it for today. We will continue our discussion of materials next time. For now, play a video game, and I'll put up a survey on Canvas. Just play a video game for next time. This is kind of a cool homework assignment. I don't know, like you have to play a video game. Like, I don't know. I think it's pretty cool. So just play a video game and then fill out the elements of game design for it. And we'll do this several times during the semester. Again, just to develop your sense of understanding the principles of game design. And then probably next time I'll assign you an assignment where you have to like make a material or something like that. So that's it for IS 50A. Peace out, you guys, and I will see you on Thursday. I don't want to play games. It's homework now. I don't know. I would have loved to have had to play games as a homework assignment when I was in college. That would have been amazing. All right. See you next time.